Yeah, so I've spoken with my customers at length. I've designed courses to cover the skills gaps from zero all the way until after they're hired, including a period of time after they get hired to help them not wash out of new hire training. So I now have, I believe, a one-stop shop from somebody who's considering becoming a pilot of rotor or fixed in every sector, rotor and fixed.
Wow.
And I have products along the way that can help them. Um, I'm building right now, so I'll explain it to you in it's four phases. Let me do a screen share. Okay, so this is four. There's four phases. Okay, so the first phase is the very very obvious one. This is flight school. This is how you become certified to act as pilot in command. Right. Um,
Mhm.
there's a problem in every one of these, and I'll just lightly touch on the biggest ones. There's many problems, but here's the biggest ones. The biggest one about technical prep is that people are training to pass a check ride, which samples 10% of the required knowledge to be successful professional. Okay, they are only getting 10% of what they need from the flight schools because they're training to pass an exam, not the full gambit.
Gotcha.
So Avic Air, I've identified that as a problem. It's always been a problem. The best instructors ignore that, ignore what the examiners are testing for, and the best instructors train the complete syllabus. Right? They teach you every single tiny little thing, and then they send you to the examiner, and the examiner will pluck from a few questions, and if they're well studied, they shouldn't have to even prepare for the exam, right? So so there's been a shift, and humans always find that we're excellent at finding the path of least resistance and conserving energy. So what we do is we go, oh, they're only going to ask A, B, and C. Why would I study A through Z? I'm just going to study A, B, C. And then what we're finding is that they're building time, flight time, after they get certified to then get the airline job, right? So then they go into this operational, what I call operational training, but it's really a time building period of time where they're trying to fill their logbook so that they can qualify, right? Because once you're certified, you're still not approved on the insurance, and 200 people are not going to get in the back of an Airbus with a freshly minted pilot. So you got to go build this time. And so the issue with building time is they fly around with the aircraft trimmed up, basically flying itself in straight and level flight in good visibility. And if the weather's bad, they don't go fly. And therefore, when they get down here to their final career position, they suck at it because they didn't learn everything they needed. They didn't get the experience they need. And then they go to these interview prep companies to trick these companies and to trick the airlines into hiring them. And so
Okay.
these interview prep companies are like, they take your technical certification, they take your experience, and they teach you how to sell that to the airlines. Okay, and that's what interview prep is. But it's become like, and there's been like 20 companies pop up in the last year because there is a market here. And I've been doing this for a long time, as you know, I've been at this. So
Yeah.
the interview prep thing is really interesting because it's kind of like pickup artists in the dating coaching world. You're not actually taking a good man who makes money, has a house, or wants to build one together, who has good values, who goes to church, who has a good circle of friends, who has a good family, who is trying to make the world a better place, who speaks well, who's a leader, who is all these things. They, they don't train you to be that guy. They take scumbags who are willing to pay $1,000, and they teach you the lines to say that they think the women wants to hear to bed them, right? And so that's what interview prep. When you hear interview prep, I hear pickup artist.
Yeah. Okay. Great metaphor. I love it.
Okay, so
Yes.
so so I've built an entire step-by-step process, an entire course. But what I've found out, I got to ask them questions to find some quality of a human, of a pilot, in there somewhere, glimmer of hope. To then, what can we sell to the airlines? Because you can't tell me most of your thing. You can't use. They tell me the story. Tell me a time you had a dangerous encounter in the cockpit or a conflict with a crew member, your co-pilot, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't use that story. You can't use that story. And I'm basically like screening their red flag stories and just finding a couple. that we can use because they've been acting poorly the whole time or minimalistically. And
Okay.
so, and so I'm now developing this entire operational training course that takes pilots right after or sometime during their training, but most likely after. And I get them into this coaching, and it's not webinars. It's it's me like this asking you, what did you do yesterday? And how can we take that screw up and turn it into a win in a way that when I get you here, that you have quality stories to then tell. Okay. And this is the skills gap that I think you're talking about is that they've got a little bit of flight time. They're not good at landings, whatever, because they did a lot of straight and level and whatever. So this I can sell all day long without any certification. This is like what they're looking for is a cheater's way to find out what the airlines are asking, and they want to know the lines that they need to say to then cheat their way into that job.
Understood.
Right? That I'm doing. I'm doing that, and I reject people all the time. If you don't give me 90 days, you're not my customer because I need time. I can't. They call me like I got an interview with Delta next week. I'm like, you're not. I'm not. I'm not doing that. It's too
Yeah.
much. It's too hard because you're probably if you've waited this long to then get interview prep. That's the big red sign that you're exactly the person they don't want to hire. So therefore, I'm not going to prep you to be that, to do that.
Roger.
Okay,
Roger.
so this is how the flow works. We learn, then we build experience, then we learn how to sell that experience, and then we get our job. And then after you get the job, now comes not drinking through a fire hose, but drinking through an anti-riot hose worth of data. Okay, it's a lot of stuff. It's not hard, it's just a lot. And there is like a 25% washout, depending on how well they position themselves during their training. And so I'm trying
When
to
you so define 25% washout.
so
You mean
of
turnover? Like a
uh,
turnover rate?
like they don't make it through the simulators, they can't pass the
Oh,
test.
oh, okay.
And over here, there's an 80% washout.
Wow. Okay.
So we get of the million people that want to be pilots, we get 200,000 that actually make it through. Okay. And then it trickles down. This is another filter, and this is another filter, and this is another filter, and that's why you have a pilot shortage because it's like you're learning the same amount of information that it requires to be a doctor, and you're trying to do that in like nine to 13 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to go be a surgeon right away, and you're 19 years old, 20 years old. You need life experience, stuff like you would do much better than a 19-year-old because you know how to speak to people. You have these certain leadership skills, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
what the airlines have found is that they don't possess the leadership skills that a guy like you would have, and so they've mandated leadership and command training to all airline captains. If you want to be an airline captain, like when I upgrade to captain, I have to go through this stupid PowerPoint and sit in class for 8 hours, and we go through leadership and command training. Okay, when you're an EMS pilot, you have to do crew resource management training. Okay, so within this period, within this phase two, so what I'm using is the FAA's mandated curriculum for Part 135 and Part 121 operators, and I'm building a course based on the FAA's curriculum. Now, all I'm doing is I'm providing a certificate that says a flight instructor with this type of experience, and I hold those certificates myself. I've now taught you what the FAA has mandated somebody like me to teach for an airline. And I'm giving it's a resume builder. It's proof of your operational experience, the period of time. So that's what I'm doing now. So what I'm doing now is I am within the phase four, the final phase, I am teaching people how to advance their career after they get hired somewhere. So
Right.
you start out as a first officer or whatever, right? And then you work your way up and you try to become captain. But then you might want to do like director of training. You might want to become an instructor in the simulator department. You want to go into safety, director of safety. These are all big, like double over six-figure jobs. They're good paying. You might not want to just fly and work on the road all the time. So
Right.
I'm interviewing in a podcast form um, the leaders of the industry at all the airlines to provide guidance on how to get to where they are.
Okay.
And I'm publishing that as just like podcast videos inside of my courseware.
Right.
And then somebody's like, "Oh, I want to be director of training. Let me hear exactly what American has to say about that." and they're going to go into that line and like, how do I do it? How do I position myself from wherever you happen to be in wherever you happen to fall within the four phases of your career. And
Fantastic.
so that's what I'm doing. And in with and to answer your question, with the idea of supporting those certificates by building relationships with the leaders in the industry to recognize what I'm trying to do, and then give extra points for holding that certificate when they
Gotcha.
apply.